Welcome to the CTOX podcast. This is the place to be if you're a technology leader navigating the fractional CTO landscape. I'm Marisa Brassfield, joined by Lior Weinstein, the visionary behind CTOX.
Here, we cut through the noise to deliver actionable insights for CTOs at every stage, whether you're looking at your first five-figure client or actively building systems to scale.
That's right. You'll learn principles, not just tactics, to transform your technical expertise into a thriving fractional practice. Let's dig in. Welcome back to the CTOX podcast. Today we're gonna spill a little tea about what it's really like to be a fractional CTO and some of the interesting stories and moments and situations that you've gotten yourself into. So Lior, you're a fractional CTO for a couple dozen businesses at this point, have been at this for 10 years. I know you've seen some stuff. You willing to dig in a little bit today?
Some. I'll try to filter out so I don't reveal. Maybe I should though. Maybe I should, so I don't reveal kind of too many personal names.
Okay, so part of the work is you go into a business, you learn how it works, you learn the people involved, you get immersed, and you're getting a vibe of the culture. What's been the most brutal, first 24 hours on the job?
Cool. Certainly, I had two big dramas. I would say the most brutal kind of couple of clients I had. So one, I was onboarding into a client, and great company, loved the CEO, loved the executive team, really connected really well. It was a great kickoff. Went to their offices in person, kind of got synced on everything, met everybody, dinners, the whole thing. Right? I felt really good about it. And a day later, I'm on a plane to a conference. I was giving a talk. And mid-flight, I get an email forwarded from the CEO.
Oh, God.
And it's this Ukrainian white hat, So white hat, if you don't know, it's like a hacker that does, good things instead of bad things. So black hat, bad hacker, white hat, good. So this Ukrainian white hatter sending them an email. He's like, listen, I found, your private files in this kind of public link. And the CEO is forwarding me that. He's like, do you think he's trying to scam us or, blackmail us? And I'm looking at the email, looking at the name, find the guy on LinkedIn, find him on Signal, because a lot of hackers are on Signal. So I sent him a message while I'm on the flight. So this is like airplane Wi-Fi.
Airplane Wi-Fi.
Airplane Wi-Fi. Very slow, very dramatic. And I sent him a signal, and I'm like, hey, I'm the CTO for this company. I saw your email, wanted to kind of learn more. He's like, oh, great. Thank you for contacting me. So he's, there's a bunch of people that do this. So he's monitoring OSINT, open source intelligence, and he kind of just scans different servers just to see if he finds any vulnerabilities, and then he's a good Samaritan, right? So he contacts the companies, plug it in. So what happened was he had scanned a bunch of servers that were running by a service provider for this company, right? So this was the software development agency for this company that they were the primary software development agency for years. And he found a whole host of files just public. And I'm like, would you mind sending me the link? So he sends me the link. I open it on my laptop, airplane Wi-Fi, very slow. And sure enough, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a problem. So now it was interesting because on my first day at that office, they were kind of explaining all the things, and they were sharing details about the software development company. So this is like an offshore development company, and they were sharing a few things about him, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's definitely something to investigate, because I didn't like how he was describing to me some of their processes.
What's an example of something that made you go, ooh, I don't like that?
So, for example, he said that the code base, so where they save all the code, it's like their servers and not our servers. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of uncommon. You don't really want to do that. And then when I asked about the Jira, the ticketing system, how they manage projects, I opened it, and it was very, very high level stuff. So it's kind of like you have a user story, which is a description of something a person wants to do. Very high level, and it didn't have any connection to the code, meaning when somebody does the work, usually in an optimized system, you have a requirement. Somebody says, I want something done. And then once it goes to production, you write some code, and then you can actually see, okay, this code was written because of this requirement, and this is when it went out and became public, right? Went to production. None of that exists. And I'm like, oh, this is very amateurish, kind of weird. But I'm like, okay, maybe I missed something. I'll just talk to them and get to know them and so on. So I already kind of flagged it in my mind and actually flagged it verbally to the executive team just as like a thing that I'm going to look at. So that happens, and I'm opening on my computer, and I'm like, this is a really great opportunity. So I'm going to fire up an email. And first of all, I texted back to CEO. I'm like, this is real. I spoke with him, and I'm confirming. I found the files myself. And told him, let's send an email. Well, we can't. This is the filter thing that we probably shouldn't. But not something that would have put both the company and the customers at risk, because you really don't want to you don't want to show private company information or private customer information online. Right? And so I sent him a text. I'm like, this is real. We need to plug this hole. This is actually a simple fix. But because this is not our infrastructure, it's this company's infrastructure, we have to have them do it. But it's really a button. It's very easy to fix. So I told him, this is actually a really good example. Let's send an email. Let me send an email to them, CCing you, and let's see how long it takes them to plug this. Because this is really, it's one of these things that if you can log in and within 60 seconds it's done and kind of fix the problem. So I send the email, and while I'm sending the email, this is still, I'm on like a Southwest flight. I fire up my terminal, and I basically write a script and pop up a server that starts downloading all the files from that open link. I'm like, I want to see how long it takes. Now, this is very slow. Everything I'm talking about, right, is very slow. Airplane Wi-Fi. Send the email, land, get to my hotel, no response. Fire up my computer, hotel Wi-Fi. And at this point, I've downloaded already like 70% of everything that was there. And we're talking hundreds of gigabytes, a lot of data. And they don't respond until the following 5 or 6 a.m. my time. I was in Central. So would be an afternoon, evening their time. And I had already downloaded everything, right? As proof, this is like a serious breach. And sure enough, they closed it, and they kind of say, oh yeah, we looked at the policies. This was the problem. Now, here's the thing: because I downloaded everything and I could see all of the information about that link, I knew also who did it, which was their basically head of development. It's not even, you would say, so it's either him, which is negligence, or somebody using his user, which is negligence, right? So. Super dramatic. Now, the positive thing about it is that we fired that agency.
Bye.
Fired that agency. And we did plug the hole. And as far as we know, no external damage was done. They actually exposed 12, 13 other more companies in that. So not just us. And I kind of told the Samaritan guy, listen, I'm not going to contact those other firms, but you should. Thank you so much for doing this. I actually hired him a few months later to do a cybersecurity audit. I'm like, hey,
that's great.
You proved yourself. So, how much do you want? And so that was a good relationship to start. So that was what's nice about it is, obviously it's not something that I wanted the organization to go through, but it immediately cemented my position in the company because one, I actually flagged it during the initial audit and relationship. And B, I actually gave confidence to the team of what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
What is the order of operation? Do we need to send an email? We need to block this. This is what needs to happen. And the CEO, if I wasn't there, think about it, this is a day after I started. If I wasn't there, the CEO thought it was spam.
Yes. Yeah, and how many people could have accessed it? What could they have done with that information? And depending on the nature of the files, that could have been really, really widespread.
Very widespread. Big problem for everybody. So that's, horror story number one, first 24 hours. Another one, I got in. This was even a client that I was supposed to have. So I normally don't work with startups. I don't love working with startups, primarily because I love to work with entrepreneurs. And in startups, you have a board mechanism that usually suddenly makes very violent changes and decisions, right? And I kind of prefer to work with the owners.
Yeah, you're not in charge.
I'm not in charge. Yeah, I like to work with the decision maker. So this was a friend's company. And he kind of approached me. He had velocity issues, meaning he had trouble releasing features and kind of doing stuff. And he asked me for a favor if I'm kind of willing to take a look and have some conversation. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So I get on a call with a few of their product people, and I finish my first call and I realize, oh, this is like a big problem. Similar thing. So it's similar thing like, I call it like the archaeology of tech. It's like when you're doing this excavation, there are certain things that you expect to see, right? So if you hire a project manager, for example, and you're using Slack or Teams or whatever, you expect to see questions.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you hire a project manager and you don't see any emails, you don't see any questions, project management is not happening.
Yeah. Questions, reminders.
Just status check-ins.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So same thing. So I kind of talked to the product person and I realized, man, he's not saying any of the things that a product person should say, right? And he's sharing me how he creates artifacts. And I'm like, these artifacts are not how good product people should. And I'm like, man, if he's doing that, then what does it mean about everything else? So I tell him, like my friend, I'm like, okay, I think there might be a problem here. Do you want me to talk to the engineers? He's like, yes, please. So I get access to the code base and I start talking to the engineers and I realize, man, 2 senior engineers haven't committed any code for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh.
These are people that make, 200,000 plus a year. 0 code.
Oh.
And that's what's nice about technology. It is bits and bytes. Like we have evidence of this, right? This is not a cash business. Okay, you're not selling shave ice in Hawaii. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, serious problem. So I kind of tell them, and then I speak with the other engineers and the rest of the team. And I tell them, I have good news and bad news. The good news is I know exactly what we need to do. The bad news is we need to fire everybody.
Oh.
And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, we did have to let go about 16 people out of like an 18-person team. So it was almost everybody. Because again, negligence, ethical issues, productivity issues. This is not a turnaround problem. Like this is like the amount, this is a team that was there for a long while. The amount of opportunity they had to turn around behaviorally and professionally was, abundant, but they never did. So I just consider this like you do not deserve this really at this point.
And that's part of the benefit of the external perspective. You come in and you don't have the years of relationship and the emotional ties and maybe the guilt or whatever behavior creeps in that would keep you working with the wrong fit team member. You can come in and just by the nature of your communication and your style as well, you come right in and like, nope, this is what needs to go. This is what's happening. And you cut it out. And the way you do it, though, is always very respectful and respectful to the business owner, and all involved. So, it's well received, but can't be easy to then go, okay, these humans need to go. And then what?
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't like using that option. I don't like using the nuclear option. In most cases, I'm actually coming into a business and suddenly the development team has somebody they can talk to that actually understands what they do and is advocating for it.
Yeah.
Because that's usually the friction. Usually the friction with businesses that actually have development of any kind is that they're asking for too much and they're not understanding the mechanics of software and software development, and the developers are frustrated. And usually the net result is me coming in and actually creating understanding and increasing the team and not changing the team. In that particular case, though, because it's also a startup and they have investors and they have deadlines and they're pre-revenue and all the things, we had to build like a 16-person team in 3 weeks. And we had to rebuild the product from scratch in about 16 weeks. And we did it. And it was like great, but it also showed them, man, they spent millions of dollars over a period of like 2.5 years on something we literally built from scratch in 4 months with the right team and the right processes. And turnarounds are very dramatic, right? A lot of flair in turnaround. They're certainly the most stressful types of projects you would engage as a fractional CTO. So it's certainly not something that, that is very common. But that's your value. Coming in externally, kind of tell them, here's what you're trying to do. You're trying to accomplish this launch. You're not going to be able to use these resources and these processes. And because they trust you as a C-level executive, You're not like a consultant trying to pitch them a project, because you're not coming in saying, oh, hire all these, people, pay me $300,000 a month for the salaries, right? That's not your pitch. So it's a very different level of trust, because you're really doing it as if you're inside the organization and you're making decisions just like them, just like the CEO.
There's a Muhammad Ali quote I love, which is, it goes something like, it's not the miles ahead that will wear you out, or the mountains ahead that will wear you out. It's the pebble in your shoe. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like you go in there and you're like, hey, why do you have
take
this
off the
pebble?
shoes?
Yeah, take off the shoes.
Take off the shoes.
Shake them out.
Sorry.
And maybe get different ones.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you are someone who's very, very focused on relationships, and that's something you prioritize in teamwork and client teamwork. I'd love to hear just a few stinkers. Like, who were some stinkers that didn't work out, or like red and yellow flags, and like times where it should have maybe been a good fit, but in practice, like something happened and you're like, nah, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this philosophically. The way I framed it in my mind for years is that I set people to fail, which is to say, I'm going to act exactly like I want to act. And I'm just waiting for them to not like it. I'm just waiting for them, to complain about anything. Doesn't matter about how I communicate, how I show up, my opinions, because as soon as they do it, especially in the early days, the romantic period of relationship, when you're still prospecting, or early days. I mean, if they do it right now, this is not going to end up well.
Thank you for showing me we're not a fit.
Exactly. Thank you so much. This is not going to be a good relationship. And so one way you can kind of think about it, kind of like setting themselves to win, or like setting my prospects to win, because I'm giving them all the opportunity in the world, to work with me. But I'm also looking. I'm trying to be genuine. I'm not trying to be like, adversarial on purpose. But with that, so I get this all the time. I actually had a conversation with one of our members just like 2 weeks ago. He called me and was like, Leo, I have a pitch in the morning. This is a cold email that actually wanted to have a conversation, and he wasn't sure how to go about it. This was his first basically cold call. And I told him, listen, just say, no, he's not a fractional CTO. He's never been a fractional CTO before. I told him, listen, this is my name. Just say I've been in technology for like 37 years. I worked in big enterprises, my entire career. And then I realized I really want to work with entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses so I can share the impact and share from my experience. Just kind of say that. And then he asked me, well, what do I say if he asks me about my experience using certain technology? I'm like, well, you've negotiated through many kinds of technologies, many kinds of projects. And I told him, it was amazing, because I told him, listen, you don't know. He was so concerned about like trying to close the client. And I told him, you might not want to work with the client. Meaning he might come off with an attitude. Like if he comes in all negative to the conversation, I just recommend you kind of, exit stage left. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So a day later, he gets on the call and he tells me, I did exactly what you told me. My name is so-and-so. I've been all the years, and I want to work with small businesses. And then the prospect immediately asked him, what do you do with AI? Like that, with that kind of tone. What do you do with AI? And he told them, well, I've done different projects, and it kind of depends what you need. And he's like, what do you do with AI? Tell me what you do with AI. And then he's like, well, I've done this kind of project and this kind of project. I can, help you with whatever comes up in your company. Tell me, what do you think you should do with AI? And then he's like, I don't understand. Do you have any experience or don't have experience?
Oh, bye.
And tripwire. I mean, easy no. And then he said, I heard you in my head of saying that he might not even be a person you want to work with. Because if in that early conversation, you're already having conflict, and this is it's like any relationship, it's a fit question. It's not, can you deliver the work? It's not, can he be a good client? Should you deliver the work to him? And can he be a good client to you? Right? And it's not a fit. Now, I've had many, in fact, I say no 99% of the time. Now, I think I'm more lucky at this point in my career. I don't get a lot of assholes to talk to, right? Meaning by the time they get to talk to me, it's usually some kind of a referral or, they hear about me for somewhere. So I don't get that. But I certainly get a lot of people that think they own me, right? If we work together. Meaning they expect like, yeah, I want you to show up. We have a daily meeting every day, company 9 a.m. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't do standing meetings. And again, it's an opportunity for them to fuck up, right? With me. So, and that is to say, they tell me, show up to the daily meeting. It's a daily executive meeting, 15 minutes. I tell them I don't do standing meetings. And if they say, well, I mean, if I'm paying you, then you should come. I'm like, oh, easy never. It's not even an explanation, like at that point. Like if they're positioning as they're paying me money and that's why they expect me to show up.
It's DBNT. Thanks, but no thanks.
Done. It's not even, I don't even get, now sometimes we get a client and they tell me, yeah, we have a weekly executive meeting, and I tell them, oh, I don't do standing meetings, but I'll send my AI. And they're like, oh, you never do that? I'm like, no, it's not never. I just don't do agendaless meetings. And because I work with, a bunch of companies, I don't want to block my schedule if there's nothing important to talk about. But I do unlimited meetings, right? Going back to other conversations we've had about hours. And if they respond well to that, they're like, well, yeah, I guess, I mean, if it's not important, if you were saying if it's important, you'll come. I'm like, yeah, of course. But if it's not, like, if we don't know ahead of time what we're going to talk about, you're not, I'm like, exactly. You're like, okay. So if they accept it, I'm like, this is going to be good mindset. We're going to have a good collaboration, not a problem. But really from the very first conversation, the big thing that I'm looking for is relationship. I'm kind of looking at the CEO or the executive team and kind of asking myself, do I want to be in a relationship with those people for the next 20 years? Maybe it's only a 6-month project, but that's the mindset I'm trying to have.
Oh, this is such a rich topic. Can we do a part 2 on this?
Yeah.
I would there's so much more I want to ask you. And I just love these examples you shared today. So thank you for sticking with us on this episode of the CTOX podcast, and we'll see you next time. That wraps up another episode of the CTOX podcast. We hope today's conversation gave you the tools and inspiration to advance your journey as a fractional CTO.
And don't forget, if you want more in-depth support or to connect with our community of fellow fractional CTOs, visit us at ctox.com.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the CTOX podcast.